Gather round. It's time for your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group at Coldwell Banker Burnett. Listen closely as your coaches discuss the culture, the economy, and the political scene, and how it affects your home and your real estate investments. Real Estate Chalk Talk is where you learn the science of buying and selling real estate and the art of living in your home. Your education begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mike Hilborn's in the studio today. Instead of Junior going to give us the blow-by-blow, got to have somebody in here telling me why I'm wrong. And Junior usually does that, but Mike's in. I'm sure you'll do just a fine job of criticizing everything I have to say. We're in the middle of the summer. It seems like it's just the market has kind of slowed to a bit of a crawl here. A little bit of activity, but kind of slowed down a little bit. And this week we've got 5,470 properties on the market in the 7-county metropolitan area. That's actually up.
Is that up a little bit?
Up 17% from the first of the year.
Okay.
Up 17%, but from 2020. Well, pre-pandemic, let's say 2020, that's a 23% decrease in the number of homes on the market. There were about 7,000 homes on the market back then, so now it's.
What would you like to see on the market right now, Keith?
I'd like to see.
Your druthers, 10,000 again back.
Yeah,
in the
I'd
day?
like to see 10,000 homes on the market is probably a pretty good number. 15 is better. That does produce longer market times. But it gives the buyers a little more of a chance to see some variety in the listings and give some market times so you can actually do the work that you're supposed to do.
Okay.
I think it's, again, we've talked about a million times, it's more of a function of interest rates than anything. If rates went down right now, it'd be a disaster for the market because there's so much pent-up demand of people who want to buy but aren't buying because of high interest rates.
Right.
And so if all of a sudden you had 30 or 40% more buyers come into the market, it'd suck that inventory right down. They're actually expecting us to lose inventory now the second half of the year.
Okay.
As new properties come on the line, slow down, and then the people that are out there looking can start picking stuff up. So that's not really good news. Our real estate market, in my opinion, right now, is about as stable as I've ever seen it.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
stable.
There's been some articles out there, and there's some concern that maybe we're going to go into. And my wife keeps telling me, "Oh, we're going to see more foreclosures. We're going to see some foreclosures." And why would you see foreclosures? I don't understand why you think you would be seeing foreclosures.
Well, she's probably referring to the fact that there's a moratorium on anybody being foreclosed on during COVID, and now those restrictions have been lifted. Right. So now people who are just like, well, I can't make my payment. I lost my job. Those things will come into play now.
Yeah.
That's what she's
That's such a small percentage.
What's 8? There's 8 of them.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a small percentage,
yeah.
But when you look at the market as a whole, just in terms of stability,
right?
There's so much equity. We mentioned it last week. There's $1 trillion worth of equity in homes in the market right now. So the equity position that most homeowners have, unless you bought last week, is tremendous. $100 and some thousand in equity in the house, and then you're sitting there at an interest rate for the majority of the homeowners that still have a mortgage. Remember, half the
under 4.
Are under 4. So they're in such a great position. Back in 2008, interest rates were still not bad, but they were a little bit higher. The equity positions were not quite as strong because there was a lot of minimal down payment mortgages out there and a lot of push on refinance, and so there's first and second mortgages and those kinds of financing things in play. That the equity position wasn't so great. So when their values drop, people see that they're quote unquote upside down on the house, and they do. Kelvin and I were talking about this morning, strategic foreclosure. So they would go buy something else and then let the property foreclose, which was a silly notion when you look back at it in retrospect, because that property now is double in value. At any rate, we don't have that now. Now you've got so much equity in the property that it seems to me like if you were in trouble financially, if one of the wage earners lost a job or their wages have been reduced for one reason or another, you would give up the boat first. Sell the boat.
Right.
Get rid of the second or third car. Get rid of the Corvette that's sitting in the corner. Do anything. Go get another job before you would let that house go back, because you have so much money. And back then you could buy another house and have that house, your payment would be less than the one that you were currently in. That was the whole thing.
Well, I just saw a YouTube video on repos
Okay.
of cars, and it's way up, right? So maybe people are doing that because they were getting all that money during the whole thing, and then they bought a bunch of cars. And that was really interesting is how damaged the cars were that are getting repossessed.
Oh, really?
Well, I think they're just not making payments, and they're just saying whatever.
Yeah.
And not
So
taking care of it, no maintenance.
Yep,
Or
and
just
then-
beating on them.
Yeah, and just dented up and broken, cracked windshields and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then the point of the video too is that there is such a lack of tow trucks and repo people that in this case what they were talking about is how Wells Fargo's paying a premium to get their cars back now because it's going to get worse.
Oh.
What do you mean by worse?
More people are going to be defaulting on their cars because they just, the prices were insane, and then people were buying things, and now
At
they can't
8%
make,
interest.
and maybe they're making the payment on their house,
Yeah.
to your point, and they're letting their car go. And then it's like, okay, I'm just going to stop paying. It'll take the bank how long to take it from me? And if there's a shortage of repo people, what does that look like?
Right.
Because I've been kind of waiting to buy some used trucks, for example.
Okay.
It's like, okay, because they went way too high. They're so expensive, the brand new ones. But I've been waiting, just like, okay, in the F-350s, so we have specific needs for what we're doing. But at F-150, we'll do some things that we don't have to have something really high-end for. And I'm waiting for the market to drop out.
And that's an opportunity. Funny you mention that, because I have two guys I know, business owners, that are doing, everyone's got a side gig, right? I mean, even business owners, they got a side deal going on. They got their business doing this, and then, it's like you got 6 businesses, so you start another one, you get into that. Well, they're buying campers and motorhomes, and because people bought them during COVID.
Okay.
And now they don't want them anymore, and so that they're letting them go back. So they're buying these things at auction, and then cleaning them up and all that, and flipping them. Actually flipping them.
Flipping campers.
Flipping campers.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time. I was at a customer about a week ago that was talking about how they were asking a competitor of mine to do more work for them, and the competitor said, no, we're maxed out. We're done. This is as much work as we can do for you. And then there's weird things like that going on right now.
Yeah,
where all of a sudden we're picking up stuff. I mean, I'm buying 2 more. We have 5 of these fleet trucks that carry 1,000 gallons of water. I'm buying 2 more. Who would have thought that was going to happen right now?
What do you do with those?
We wash
we talk about
trucks for
that
like.
next-
Oh.
Let's talk
FedEx.
about that when we get into
Yeah.
it.
Anyway,
Let's finish up on the real estate, Keith. We got
so
2 minutes.
So 2 minutes now. So what does it look like this week in terms of the move through? We have a new sold houses, about 1,100 houses. Last week is about 900. Week before that is 1,100. I mean, it's just like steady. It's just like slow and steady. That's down about 30%. It just remains down. Got some numbers back from the first quarter. Pretty interesting what we're talking about with flipping. 10% of all the properties sold in the first quarter were homes that were flipped. So the flippers are still out there in large numbers. That's down slightly from pre-COVID, but it's still a huge part of the business. When you look at 10% of the homes that are sold to people who are going to flip them. And the margins are down from that standpoint in terms of the people who are actually working in that market for a living. The margins are down a little bit, but they got to do business, and so they're just mustering through it. It's still pretty good business to be in if you can find the properties, and obviously they're not having trouble doing that. The average price is like $250, and then they're selling them in the low 300s. It's right in that sweet spot, so they don't have any trouble getting rid of anything. The margin's good. Averages 20 to 30% margin on a flip like that. Not for the faint of heart. Not for the if you're listening as a consumer, don't run out right now and buy a house to flip, because if you don't know what you're doing, you can easily get killed in this in this market. But if you do this as a living, you've got your vendors in place, you got your supply line set up, and people like buying them. That's the thing. When you're working with a buyer, they like buying a house that's been flipped because it's got new appliances, it's got new mechanicals, it's just been gone through, it's move-in ready, and they like it. This is HittnerGroup.com is the website, HITTNERgroup.com, HittnerGroup.com, 612-627-8000, 612-627-8000. Junior's out this week. Mike Hilborn's in the studio. Mike, can you give just a background? You got a lot of businesses that you run, varied businesses. Just tell the people, listeners, kind of what your background is. Describe your company and the different branches. I see a tree with a bunch of stuff on, branches on top. Just tell us what that's about.
Okay, so the way I describe it to everybody, it's a calendar-driven company. So depending on the time of year, depends on what we're doing. So April through September, we power wash and stain decks, fences, gazebos, porches, cedar shake roofs, things like that. And then September, October, November, and into December, we design and install Christmas lighting. Nice thing about Christmas lights, you put them up, you got to take them down. So now I've got work for the guys January, February, March. And then also in the summertime, we have a commercial side where we wash parking garages, really big ones for like the U of M, Abbott Hospital, and then any apartment or condo. Anything brand new has parking garages. They have to be washed every year. And then we also do what's called fleet washing. So we wash fleets for FedEx, 2 Men in a Truck, any trucking company you can think of. They don't bring it to a car wash. The car wash, we come to them, and we wash them on their property. So that we do that, and then in the wintertime we also do snow plowing. And the whole thing, we got to keep our guys working all the time, and they have mortgages to pay for and car payments and all that stuff. So we have to keep the guys always working. It's interesting. We talked a little, a couple, I don't know, whenever it was. And we were talking about that whole EOS thing, and we're going through that traction book we were talking about. And what we came up with is our core values. And you have core values, but you never actually put them in print.
Right.
So one of our core values, it was very interesting to see, because there's a process to this.
You said we came up with. Who's we?
A consultant and then my leadership team.
Okay.
And one of the core values is kind of what we're talking about right now is grow or die. We're either going to grow or die. So we are always growing in some way, and we've made mistakes, and we did window cleaning for a while. So nope, that's not for us, and we backed away from that. We did patio stone cleaning, which seems like that would make perfect sense. We're doing a deck in a backyard. Why wouldn't we do seal your paving stones? Again, it didn't fit for us. But one of the things that makes a lot of sense for us, and it seems to, is we wash parking garages, and you have to have lines, stripes. So we would subcontract that out, and we said, okay, you know what, we need to do this. So went to the class, bought the machine, and we started line striping, and that is awesome. Boy, are we having fun with that. And it's just an example of this grow or die thing. It's like we're not just going to be stuck in one thing, because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what the future looks like.
I have a couple questions that come to my mind just in this. First of all, when you're setting your core values, grow or die, obviously that's not your only one. And your leadership team and a consultant, how involved were you in that? Because isn't your business as a reflection of Mike?
It is. It absolutely is. But it isn't. I mean, it is, but it isn't me. I mean, I can't do this by myself. Okay. So do you know this is how we came up with it? This is fascinating to me because how are we going to come up with this? You pick your 3 best employees, and you say, okay, describe them. What makes them the best? And it was like always shows up on time, gets things done, great attitude, customers love him. And you come up with like 50 things. Now, some of the things are like reliable and shows up on time. That's the same.
Yeah.
And then we just distilled it down to 4 things. Okay. Right? So it's show up, and I have a thing like the secret to success, very simple. Show up all the time, no matter what. No matter what. Okay. And then is do the right thing. Get things done, and then, like I said, grow or die. Those are our 4, and it totally is us. And then what makes it so wonderful is every decision's based on those 4 things. Mm-hmm. Every time I hire somebody, fire somebody, buy a truck, sell a truck, or whatever is based on those 4 things. It's really awesome.
That's interesting.
Okay, so now
So what are the 4 again?
It's show up.
Show up.
Okay, do the right thing, get things done, and grow or die.
Like that.
You mentioned that
it's only 4.
Yeah. You know what? I wanted it to be 3.
You don't need 12.
Yeah.
Right?
I wanted it to be 3. It really came down to 4.
Yeah. I would have gone for 3. 'Cause
Yeah, right.
I'm an odd number guy.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so now you mentioned that you got out of the window washing business and out of the patio washing, which
paving stones. Yeah.
I see too. Is like, well, I can understand windows maybe a little bit, but the patio business, I'm there doing the deck. Why wouldn't I just do the patio?
Right.
So what was involved in that? Why was it just not the volume, or what was it about that said, nah, this is not for us?
Maybe it was at the time sort of thing too. You always have to have the right people to actually implement things. Otherwise, you can stretch yourself too thin. And we just didn't have the right resources at the time. And we didn't have a passion for it or something, and it just didn't make sense for us.
So you've got these different business units. Do you have different people responsible for leadership for that unit? Then that you're directing the garage, washing.
Yeah. Yeah, we absolutely do.
Okay.
And what's interesting, fun for me now is because back when I started it, guess who did everything and learned everything and created everything is me.
Right.
Now I haven't even been out on the job that we're striping, right? I mean, I got my guys doing all of it and creating it and putting it all together, which I think is fascinating.
Awesome.
As an evolution, how long have you been in business? For 20-some years?
28 years.
Okay. So from a evolution standpoint, a growth and development standpoint, is there a part of the business that you are kind of morphing away from and going and other parts that you're going towards that you're more excited about and you're leaving some stuff behind? Or is it just you want it all to go? You want it all to grow?
Well, okay, I do want it all to grow, and it seems like it would be odd for me to say I want something to go away, because then it's like, well, then it doesn't seem like I really want to be good at it kind of thing. So no, we want to be good at all of it.
Okay.
But here's what's wonderful, where when you have just one thing you do, everything has to come from that one thing.
Right.
And you have to push, and everything has to, and then you might even do things that you probably shouldn't be doing because it just isn't really a good thing.
Yep.
But it's your only thing, so you have to do everything. And now it's like we have 3 really strong things. We've got decks in the summertime, decks, fences, gazebos, porches. We have parking garage washing. We have fleet washing, and all 3 are just right now praise God, on fire. And it just takes the pressure. Actually, it takes the pressure off each of those 3, because
takes
all
the
3
pressure
are
off
helping.
the other ones, right?
Yeah, all 3 are moving in a direction.
So do you have your staff? You say you're a seasonal driven business. So your staff then in your labor pool, they morph kind of from one thing to another. Talk about how do you address that with people when it's like, okay, now this week you're putting up Christmas lights, next week you're going to be spraying, roofs, up on a roof, spraying a roof off.
Yeah.
Talk about the cross training there, and what kind of ongoing communication, training, and dialogue do you have with your hourly employees?
Okay, so there's a natural rhythm or vibration to this stuff. That seems really weird to say, but my deck restoration guys, deck, fences, gazebos, porches, man, they move right into Christmas lighting like duck to water or something like that. It's a natural. There's a feel for it. My fleet washing guys, the guys that wash the trucks, man, they do not like cleaning decks, and they don't like putting up Christmas lights.
Okay.
And you have to love it.
So what do they do then?
Well, so they do the parking garages. They do that and the fleet washing then, right?
The parking garage guys and the fleet wash guys, I think maybe a little more into the commercial snow.
Okay.
Maybe. And I was showing you guys saw it, I just bought 2 F-350 pickups. So now we have 4, and then our goal is to get to 8. And just buying the equipment that then will allow this parking garage guy to move into this piece of equipment that fits what he's good at or capable of. There's these thing called Ventrax, very, very cool machines. They're these real small articulated machines that are for sidewalks, and they're $65,000
a pop.
Each one of them. Bought one last year, buying another one. We bought another skid steer, another $60,000. These pickup trucks are now $60,000. I don't know where else to put my money. The stock market, I just never really know what to do.
Or reinvest in your own business.
There you go. See, that I have a little control, and I can see it, and I understand it. And you know what? Okay, if I make a mistake, guess what I do?
Sell it.
Sell it.
Yeah. I audited construction companies 40 years ago, and I was always amazed by how much equipment they had. I mean, these companies had hundreds of trucks and graders and all this equipment. It's like, and the philosophy for the owners is you can never have too much equipment. You know, you can get on a job, and if it's the right job, that equipment is paid for on that job, and now you've got it available to you for the next 20 years. Don't ever sell it.
Yeah.
You know, because you can just maintain it and keep it and grow your business and keep on. Then the hardest part then is getting someone to drive that piece of machinery.
You know, and the thing is now is what I'm learning is I have to have each guy in his own truck.
Yes.
This is your truck.
Yep.
Otherwise, they just break them all.
Yes. I went through that as well. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. 612-627-8000, 612-627-8000. We'll be right back after these messages with Mike Hilborn. All one word, that HittnerGroup.com. That's one of the oldest real estate websites in Minnesota. It's been online for over 30 years.
Wow, that is right. That's got to be one of the first.
612-627-8000, 612-627-8000. Okay, so we're talking with Mike Hilborn, and I love talking to you because you are so insightful, and just you've got a really sharp business acumen, I think, and you built a wonderful business, been around for nearly 30 years, and continuing to grow, continue to be excited about your business, and
thank you, I really appreciate that.
I appreciate you. So, I want to talk about problem solving, because I feel I've owned a number of businesses, number of different businesses, failed in all of them, except for and it gets down to problem solving. And Calvin and I were talking about this last week a little bit. When something comes up in real estate, the longer that you've been around, the more intuitive almost your problem solving becomes. And I mentioned to him I had one of my air conditioners replaced at the house last week, and these new air conditioners, the one that was there was a 22-year-old Lennox. The original Sear, so it was a smaller unit because they actually did a good job of cooling. And so the new ones come in, they have to be bigger with a bigger A coil. And it didn't fit in the housing of my air exchanger. And so they said, well, you got to replace all this and all that. And, it's going to be $5,000 for this. And then we got to get a fitter out here to come and refit all the ductwork and all that. And I said, no, you don't. And, nope, not doing that. How about you get a smaller air conditioner? Because this air conditioner was a 3-ton air conditioner. It only cools 2 rooms. And I said, how about you just get a smaller air conditioner? And it was just like, he never even thought of that. They never even thought of that.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. So it's like, okay, so then they came back, the order one came back, they put it in this week, works like a champion, everything is good, didn't have to do anything, and it was able to do it for the original bid price.
And it fulfilled the birthday present for
And it fulfilled
Sheila.
the birthday present for Sheila, because
great.
that was her birthday present, was a replacement air conditioner for that wing of the house. So then my question is for you, when you're coming up, as your businesses grow, and you become, there's stuff that comes up all the time. How do you go about delegating or managing? Because problems come up. Things have to be addressed, and the guys are out in the field. They got to make a decision, all that stuff. How do you let go of that to where they're not always calling you to make that call, to make that decision? And how do you train that into your people?
Okay,
Or do you make all the...
No. So, I don't know. I heard this years ago, and I really like it, is that if you have a business and you have to be there, it's not really a business. It's just a fancy job. So the only way it's a business is if you can be gone. And so I take like the month of January off, and I go down to the Virgin Islands for that, and on purpose. It's like, no, I have to be gone because everybody needs to step up. So, and you know what? Mistakes happen all the time. People always, all the time, make mistakes, and you just can't get. It's kind of interesting now. Is every now and then we'll have somebody drive through a garage door, and the door isn't open, and they drive right through it and rips it right out. I don't even get annoyed anymore. So how amazing is that?
That's amazing. No
Yeah. Just it's like, okay.
It's funny you say that, because I'm thinking back on my 20 years ago when we had the garden centers and we did the snow plowing for the federal government in the Twin Cities. So we were doing a lot of snow plowing in a lot of big parking lots. And every year, someone would back into a light pole, a light standard, and that thing would give a little wiggle and come crashing down. And it's like, at the time, it's like, okay, there's $1,200. Just hit the ground, $1,200, because that's what it costs to replace that light pole. And the first time it happened, you get all whipped up out, you dumb, SOB. How can you back into a light pole? It's sitting there up on us until you're out there in the field with them, and you've been plowing snow for 36 hours straight, and you're tired and in a hurry. And yeah, I did it myself. I backed into a light pole.
I've backed into stuff too.
Yeah.
But you haven't addressed like how do you problem solve? Now we're talking about.
What he's saying is, I think, is that problems come up and the people on site just deal with them.
Yeah, and we have, I can actually say this out loud now. We have some great people. I mean, great, and some guys that are getting to great, or
they're good.
They're going to be great.
They're either going to be great or they're not going to work here anymore.
Okay.
Which is kind of our grow or die and do the right thing. We got those core values.
Yeah.
If they don't fit those 4 core values, they can't be here. So the guys are out there making, the best decision they can at the time, and then sometimes you just gotta slow down. Don't move so fast. You don't have to get it all done right now. Yeah, because you can damage a lot of stuff with snow equipment.
Yes, you can.
It's baked in.
And you can damage a lot of equipment. But,
yeah.
You burn through a lot of equipment. Okay, so then my question is this, is how long then, how many chances do you have a kind of a set, how do you feel your way through, like this guy is just not going to make it? I like him. He fits most of the values, but he's just not going to be here forever.
I can only have the same conversation so many times where I'm like, okay, I just can't talk about this anymore. And I always tell, too, don't worry. You will know you're getting fired. You will never be surprised, like, well, where'd that come from? You'll know, because I will tell you, hey, and I always say this, the guys always hear it, too. Keith, I like you. I think you're a great guy. I cannot continue to have this conversation. So really, this is the last time. If we can't square this thing away, it's got to be done. And then when that day comes, it's like, okay, like I said, I can't talk about this anymore. And then they're done.
Okay, so now I have another question. Full of questions today with you, so I'm happy you're here. So my grandson works for a contractor. Nice guy, good business. And three of my grandsons have all worked for him as they've gone through school. So this week he falls off of a second floor scaffolding and hits the concrete below, knocked out, concussion, onto the hospital. He's all, cracked wrist, broken, not broken bones, but he's banged up. And when your business, it sounds like you got a lot of people up on ladders, up on roofs, up on high places, heavy equipment moving around. How do you deal with that work comp, with the injury stuff?
Do you have a lot of that?
No, not too bad. No, we're actually, okay, it's not as good as it should be because our mod rating's over 1. Okay, so that's not good. But one thing can happen, and then that can hurt you. But our guys are actually, and we have safety committee meetings and all that stuff.
You do?
Yeah, and we have certain guys on roofs. Not everybody runs around doing roofs. I think on the last show, I even talked to you guys about, I had a guy fall off a ladder again. It's like, it reminded me of Dumb and Dumber when he runs off the jetway and he goes, yeah, I fell off the jetway again. It's like, how does it happen a second time?
Yeah.
And then that guy just, his head isn't going to work right.
Right.
Or I shouldn't say it like that, but he's going to kill himself.
Yeah.
So then I have to protect him and say, you can't do this anymore.
Okay. Does that mean you can't work here anymore?
A ladder, yeah. If you can't be on a ladder.
Yeah.
We have too many ladders.
Yeah. We do. Yeah, you mentioned last time you were here you were giving ladders away for every deck that was power washed because they left.
We leave one
forget
behind always.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I have, especially with this environment that we're in, where we do have still, it seems like the bigger companies are laying off people, especially tech. They're as they're bringing people back, they're realizing, I think, that they didn't need a lot of people, and so they're thinning out the thing and culling, and a lot of that is going on now. Small businesses and very small businesses are still having a heck of a time finding good people, and when they find someone, everyone's trying to steal them away. What do you do about retention and benefits and all that? How do you retain people?
So a couple of weeks ago, had a guy, or a month ago or so, had one of my best guys put in his notice. I literally physically felt that when he's told me that, and it just really surprised me. So I talked to like my other 3 great guys, make sure they weren't going anywhere. And then I decided everybody's getting a 25% raise. Everybody, instantly, 20 to 25, 25 to 30, whatever it is. And then the great part of the story is that 2 weeks after him working at that new company, and all his friends are still at RTD, he goes, Mike, can I come back? So that was pretty cool.
Okay.
So,
and you welcome him back?
Oh, yeah. It's like I told him. It's like, Dustin, if it doesn't work out, please come back. Because I was very disappointed that he was leaving.
And what was the draw, just so we
understand,
what was the draw away from?
So what his comment was that there were some people that he was working with. He goes, Mike, these guys don't belong here. They don't belong at our Roof to Deck. Yeah. And it's that great people thing. And it's just, that's when I decided everybody that's going to work here moving forward is going to be great, because I'm not going to lose Dustin again. So that's even the culture, right, where everybody's going to be great. So that retains people. 25% raise, that has a significant impact on people.
That's a scary. That's a scary raise to
that
give.
One was keeping me. That one was actually preventing me from sleeping for a while.
Yeah.
But the guys they're all talking about performance now.
Okay.
Everybody's like, okay, don't make me work with that guy because my numbers won't be good, because we track everybody's performance.
And the more money you make as a company, the more generous you can be with the people.
Yes.
This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. Real Estate Chalk Talk. 612-627-8000. We'll be right back. HittnerGroup.com, HITTNER Group.com. Calvin Kamick with Loan Depot, 651-231-2500. Get that free money, right, Calvin?
Free money. Yeah, a little upcharge on it, but not bad.
Not bad?
So rates are, so my mouse stopped working on my laptop like 3 days ago, so there's some things on there that I thought, oh, this would be interesting, and now I can't get to it. So
perfect.
But that's okay. We're with, so a couple things. Keith, if you can give us a quick just market update again, because we post this segment all over the place. So quick market update on the real estate side real quick. Inventory, and then...
Inventory is stable at about, about 5,000 houses on the market.
5,470 homes.
All right, 5,000 houses on the market. That's about it's just been running, that's up 20-some% from the first of the year, down 30% from pre-COVID numbers. They expect that the inventory on homes will actually decrease in the second half of the year.
So good time for sellers second half of the year. I hear you saying that,
it
right?
is a good time for sellers. If you have to sell your house,
yep.
And that's what most people are doing now. It's a have to market. It's not so much a want to market. We have a lot of empty nesters that are choosing to sell now as they go into assisted living, or they're one level something or other, or moving to their place in Florida or something. A lot of exits. We've had quite a few deals this year where they're moving to Texas, actually. So it seems to be a flight to Texas. And then the move-up buyers are still very challenged. That is, we've had twins, and we just need more. We have to. Because for people are locked into their low interest rate, and then the sticker shock or the payment shock of moving up to a larger house that costs more, that's an increase, and then double the interest rate, that's a bridge too far for a lot of people.
Yep.
So
good. So market's okay, flat.
You're very stable. It's very stable.
You're seeing a little slowdown, you think, in the market right now, just
slowdown
summer
in activity. And that's very traditional. I mean, we're coming in now to the second trimester of the year. People, as we approach the end of the month and get into July and August, it's vacation time. People are just distracted. They're busy doing other things. As we move more towards school year stuff, fall, winter, people start looking ahead and saying, oh, geez, if we're going to do something, we better get her done and get stuff ready so that they can come back in after Labor Day. And so this middle part of the year is actually a very sweet spot for a buyer.
Okay. Good. We're here with Mike Hilborn as well, Roof to Deck everything, really, right? And we talked at the end of last segment. I just want to touch on one thing as we were going out. Not everybody heard all of it, probably, but you talked about you track everyone's performance when you're saying, because you gave 20 to 25% raises because you lost a great employee. You're like, oh man, I don't want to do that. You like boom. bump everybody up, and you said you track everyone's performance. How in your industry, I know how we try to do it with our loan officers and all that. How do you do it in your industry in terms of tracking performance? What does that mean? Because you said one guy might not want, like I might not want to work with Keith because let's say out on a radio show he uses a different name, right? Not great. So that would hurt my performance, So how do you track performance?
So each one of my deck technicians, we know how much revenue he does that day, right? Because he went out and cleaned 3 decks. Say that's $1,000, and so we add it up. At the end of the week, he did $5,000 in revenue, and then I paid him $1,000, for example. Okay. So that's 20%. So I know that his number is 20%. I want the guys to be at a certain level, whatever that level is. Same with the fleet guys. The guys are washing trucks.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you add up how much revenue they did, added up all week. How much did I pay them? So I know exactly how much revenue per payroll dollar that each guy does. And so we can track it. We can see it every week.
You pay your guys weekly?
No, it's every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
But
okay.
we track the performance day and then we summarize it in a week. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Daily.
So
that's interesting, isn't it?
So what happens if you don't have the work for him?
Well, yeah, that's a whole
kind of throws your numbers
that's
up.
That's a different conversation.
We don't use.
But you don't
we don't
have
run
that,
out
do
of
you?
work. We won't run out of work until the end of December.
Okay.
And then this winter time's a little slower. And then we're doing snow plowing and all that stuff. And that's kind of
good. Let's so thank you for that, and thanks for being here. Obviously, want to run into the mortgage side real quick again this week. Always good headlines, right? Mortgage rates edging back towards recent highs, right? That's the headline this week again.
Why is that?
The Fed came out, said, what did they say this week? They said, well, we're going to raise rates again. We paused on
not
one.
This time.
We didn't this time, but now we anticipate having to just tamper down inflation. Inflation is just a killer for everybody, but especially the low class, middle class. It's robbery from them. So it's really challenging, and they want to slow down inflation, and they're going to continue to raise rates until they push us into a really good recession. Not just the little recession that we're in, but a really strong recession, and that's concerning, and the market doesn't like it. So we saw rates go up a little bit again, and we keep believing, and we keep listening, and you have these seminars, you're listening to Barry Habib, all the guys who know everything, the gurus of our thing. They keep saying, hang in there, hang in there, hang in there. We'll be okay. We're coming back down, but come on. So I had a meeting with who's my boss out of Chicago. He was in town and brought on a new group in Prior Lake, so we're happy to have them with us. But he was saying, we just need 60 more days of high rates. I'm like, 60 more days of this? Why? He goes, because he's looking globally. He goes, man, there's just going to be more and more companies that don't make it, can't make it, loan officers not making it. Because he said, quite honestly, we need to shrink the market. No different than our conversation, right, Keith, where you said if there was a third less realtors, it would be great. He looks at it and goes, hey, we have enough money at Loan Depot to weather the storm. I mean, we're losing $50 million a month.
Oh, my God.
And he said, but we have $1 billion in the bank, so we're okay. Other companies that are losing X million per month, I mean, they can't make.
They're going to run out of money.
They're going to run out of money. And so it's pretty interesting, just the mindset of people and just how people are viewing our industry. But rates are high right now, high sixes. But I'll tell you, even high sixes right now, if you pay a point, you're down at, you're down mid sixes to high sixes. And it's okay, but everything comes now with a point. There used to be always a point discount or a point origination back in the day. So we're back to that, and we can get you in the high sixes, mid sixes, and it's okay, but it is more of that necessary move that we talk about all the time. And we had one we talked about last couple weeks, but we close it finally. People in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, 4 months left on it. If you're in a Chapter 13, we can still finance you in a new home, and how we use the proceeds of the sale of their home, paid off $71,000 of bad debt. You talk about car loans. Their car loans were at 22% interest. So we do a cash flow analysis with everybody where I took all their debt, and they're going to put all this new money into their home, and we did this cash flow. Said, hey, what if we did this instead? $71,000 to bad debt. And I can't. And by the way, their family cash outlay lower than what it was before they bought their new home. And they went to a new build. They didn't use the builder's lender. Like, no, we trust Kelvin he's handling our finances. And it's like, man, felt so good this week when we closed on that. But man, it's a lot of hoops to jump through as you have to deal with trustees, bankruptcy attorneys to say, hey, do we have permission to do this? This is what we're doing. Here's our cash flow analysis. This is why it makes sense. And we got it done, but it was we jumped through a lot of hoops, but man, that feels good,
So then when you said you closed on it this week, so then you close, are they still in the bankruptcy, or was the bankruptcy settled?
Nope, they have 4 months left.
Okay.
Because we said, hey, can we pay off the bankruptcy? And they said, no, you can't. I didn't know this.
Okay.
You have to make all the payments. If you prepay it,
Doesn't
make no
Mystery.
sense to me. But
Right.
I don't care. Make the 4 additional payments and they're done. And now when they come out, they're going to have a house payment. That's it.
Wow.
So pretty neat deal that we're doing there. So it's a good time. We're doing some refinances, which is weird, but it's refinances to pay off debt, to pay off second mortgages, because all those second mortgages are now 9%. So now they're saying, hey, if I can get high sixes,
Right.
I mean, we're just looking at the overall debt structure. And if you don't have a loan officer that can take and do a cash flow analysis for you and put in the interest rate you're paying, your HELOC, the interest rate you're paying, and be able to calculate
what your blended rate
is on stuff, then you don't have a good loan officer.
Right.
So I like to think we're pretty good at what we do. I'm awesome.
And I think looking at, Kelvin, the household outlay is critical.
Yep.
That is the key, because that's what people live with.
That's what people live with, right?
So when they say, bragging about your low payment or on your mortgage is one thing, but then if you're bleeding out the side on other things,
Right.
it doesn't make much sense.
Well, and now's the time. I was listening to a deal by Dave Ramsey, and he just talked about, hey, now's the time that you just kind of clean up everything. As things are tighter, things are like, you and I talk about,
Yeah,
right?
we were just talking about it.
Got to clean up all those, subscriptions that are on your credit card for $9.99 that you've had for 13 years.
Right.
That you've never opened once.
And you don't even know what they're for anymore.
I know.
Yeah.
So anyway, good time to clean up your stuff. If you want to clean up your mortgage and all your existing debt, or just you're looking to buy or sell, quite honestly, call me and we'll get you connected. 651-231-2500. Love to have the conversation with you.
651-231-2500. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. 612-627-8000. HittnerGroup.com. HITTNER Group.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.